I never imagined that on a project with both Peter Brötzmann and Heather Leigh collaborating that Leigh would become the team carry, but hearing this now, I'm starting to understand the potential that Brötzmann sees in her musicianship. Just as any other pretentious experimental jazz nerd, of which I am not, definitely not, I am well aware of Brötzmann's long and fruitful career as European jazz's most likely saxophonist and clarinetist to annoy the living shit out of you within the first minute of a track. It's a joy that most of his albums are over an hour in length then. It sounds like I don't really like the guy's music, but it's actually quite the opposite. In pure concept, I actually freaking love it. It's riotous, it's creative, it's genuinely out there to hammer sharp and abrasive and disturbing noises into your head simply with his signature instruments and the way that he plays them. Although I still have to question whether I have the patience for Long Story Short, which is over 6 hours. That's the length of an average high school day, and that was testing enough, wasn't it? I feel like I should also disclaim, I didn't even know clarinetist was a word before writing this review. Heather Leigh, on the other hand, is a singer-songwriter whose angular, droning, and sour-toned style to writing and performing should probably put her up with the modern avant-folk greats like Richard Dawson. I mean, I don't necessarily enjoy her music myself, but I can appreciate from a distance what she's doing, and I know that those of you who scare your friends off with your favorite Tim Buckley records would definitely be in your comfort zone with a nice headset and the play button pressed on an album called I Abused Animal. It certainly sounds the case. Sparrow Nights sees the two improvisational madfellas come together on an eerie and challenging new record. It hovers less towards Brötzmann's usual dense and noisy ensembles and decides to get a little bit more tranquil and intimate, or at least it is until Brötzmann's saxophone starts squealing into the fold like a 9-year-old Matt Healy. Sparrow Nights is a weird record, only because while it is an exciting billing and collaboration, the kind that I would love to start jamming on the regular to weird out people on Instagram, I can't even feel as if the two's contributions are all that intertwined too well, and that's from the improvisational element of the album, as Leigh's droning guitar takes precedent while Brötzmann's saxophone and clarinet trickles over the top like the last week near empty bottle squirts of barbecue sauce on a pizza. If there is a mood conjured on the album, it's not so much due to the combined efforts of the two musicians, and it's more just due to me tuning into one side more than the other, and most of the time it is Heather Leigh, because on default, an electric guitar that drones and echoes on in a shrill and unusually unsettling tone like Ben Shapiro at the bottom of a wishing well is going to take up more of that musical space than whatever Brötzmann does on his instruments. And on the moments that Brötzmann attempts to show some more power, it's in such awkward puffs like on Sparrow Nights, where the atmosphere pulls a Dave Days and melts away completely into the abyss. Then the album thinks, aha, how can we regain the listener's attention after that? I know, we'll make the loudest incessant noise that we possibly can. So they crank up the distortion, and for nearly 11 minutes I'd rather be anywhere else in the music world. I wouldn't say the bit that annoys me is all of the squealing noise. Actually, you know what? I'd say it is. Oopsie daisies. Fortunately, it's the second half of the album that promises a little bit more in terms of chemistry between the two, as if their parts are actually playing off each other a bit more instead of doing something and hoping. River of Sorrow seems to understand this despite being the second longest track on the album, and My Empty Heart understands this even more despite being the longest track on the album. The ending sounds genuinely menacing and like the conclusion of a nightmare as it fizzles out and transitions into the dawn of a new day, which makes me wonder, why couldn't anything before be this evocative? Turns out I do know the answer to that, because it's all improvised. Perhaps the incessant sounds wiggling into my ear like unnerving clans of bacteria might sound like treasure troves of atmosphere and feeling to another person. There might be subtlety and beauty here to another person as the instruments weep and bleed for elongated periods of time, and this album is more about where the music takes you, and for me that's Waira Bowling Alley, so that's like a 5 out of 10. And I certainly wouldn't avoid this if you're into listening to absolutely anything for an hour and 17 minutes.